Chuck, and welcome to the ITXP. This is episode number 6.2, Soft Skills. You can tell probably by the sounds in the background, the ambient sounds in the background, I am outside today. It took me a while to get from the dungeon. For those of you that are not aware, if you've been living under a rock, we have this lockdown in the United States, actually around the world. And I've been in my basement since about March 5th, the last time I was in the office. March 5th, 2020 was the last time I was in the office. Stuck in the basement and dealing with COVID-19 and just all the nonsense that's been around that. So I made it outside today, trying to see how this works. Hopefully there won't be too much ambient background noise, but it's actually pretty good being outside. I don't know if you'll hear the screeches of some falcons or eagles out here. I was prepping for the show, and I started hearing some screeches from probably an eagle, and I was like, "What the hell's going on out here?" And I have to be careful because I have a new puppy. It's a mix between a Chihuahua and a Dachshund. Dachshund. That's what we call it. A Dachshund. I always say Dachshund to be German, but anyway, I digress. Welcome to episode 6.2 of the ITXP. If you don't know, for those new listeners, shout out to my friends out in India listening on the Ghana app. I actually added the stream to Ghana thanks to Libsyn. Libsyn is my current podcast provider, and they offered new streams that I can add this to, and I added it to Ghana, and as soon as I added to Ghana, boom, it started taking off. It makes sense, right? We have a lot of our colleagues that are working out in India, for better or for worse. You know, working in America since the mid to late 90s, it's been a mixed bag. Always worried about our jobs getting outsourced overseas, and now we're seeing jobs leaving India going to the Philippines. I actually started seeing that in one of my previous positions where we're going to the Philippines away from India. And it's just, unfortunately, it's the nature of business. You actually want to seek out minimal labor costs. And it's unfortunate, right? And India has gotten so big and so has grown so fast in the technology space that it's no longer affordable for the most part to have resources offshore in India. And for better or for worse, it's done a hell of a lot for the folks out there, in terms of providing a life for their family. But they're going through what we in the United States have gone through since the resurgence of technology. We're seeing very, very low level jobs. I'm not going to say low skilled. I'm going to say low level jobs being farmed offshore. There are some companies that are trying to bring it back onshore, but it's a challenge, right? It's all about finding that good balance between cost of people and providing a good service. I do recall those early days in India where, not in India, in technology, I should say, where there was a lot of negative attitudes towards our colleagues and friends over in India. And I'm not going to say that I did not partake in it. I think I did, because it was just frustrating dealing with that. But I was always reminded of the cultural barriers between the two economies, right? The American economy and the Indian economy. And the reason that I was reminded of that was because I did have a roommate my freshman year of university or college that came from Jordan. And talk about cultural differences. I think I've talked about this early on in one of my earlier shows, that I was an American-born citizen, first-generation American. Family came from South America, and I was Americanized. I was completely Americanized. I was all about America. And I listened to heavy metal. When I started college, I had long hair, down to my shoulders, and our ideologies just didn't see eye to eye. He obviously came from a different place in the Middle East, in where he had, at that point in time, he had a big disdain for the Jewish people. And me, I'm not going to say I love all people, and that's just bullshit, right? It's just I try not to fall into those, I hate this particular group of people because X, Y, and Z. I'm more focused on a person at the personal level than a whole group of people. Let's put it that way, right? You can be the best person in the world and have a different skin tone than me. That's fine. Or you can be a complete asshole and have the same skin tone as me. That's fine too. And I've taken that approach throughout my personal life and my career as well. Yes, early on in those early days of my career and having to deal with offshore folks, it's been very, very frustrating to say the least. Again, because of those cultural differences, there was no sense of urgency in terms of resolving a problem, let's say. So if I were to call up technical support for a vendor that had offshore folks, we knew that there is a script that they follow, and trying to get them away from that script, it was problematic. And I still see that to this day. Most of us in America have our internet service provider is provided by one or two cable providers. It's either Comcast or Optimum, or the various flavors of those two companies across the United States. And obviously Verizon now is in the mix. And for the most part, their support is offshore. And it used to be India. Now it's the Philippines. And I think some of them also are in Mexico. And the differences are staggering in terms of how they relate to people. And this really ties into the soft skills component of this episode, right? And you're like, Chuck, you're kind of going around in circles. What the hell are you talking about? Well, really, it's all about the soft skills. The differences between talking to someone in India in those early days compared to someone in the Philippines was around communication, and more so in terms of not in terms of the fact that, I'm trying to help you out and this and that, and more in how the folks in Manila, in the Philippines, were able to communicate with you at a deeper level than someone in India, right? They had a more caring approach. And that's, if you really take a step back from, you're like, Chuck, you're an asshole because, us Indians, we're very compassionate. We're very passionate about what we do, and we want to help you, blah, blah, blah. That's true. I totally understand that. But if you take a look at the difference in how someone from the Philippines approaches a problem to let's say someone in India, it's really like night and day. The person in the Philippines, by nature, is very friendly. Is very, very friendly. They get you to a point where they make you feel at ease and comfort to solve your problem. And if you notice, at least in the United States, many nurses are Filipino. Because they have that caring attitude that's just kind of ingrained in them. It's in their genetics, right? Whereas the Indian person, I don't get that sense of care, right? Especially for someone that's outside of that culture. I've talked to a number of Indian colleagues, a number of Indian friends, and there is a cultural difference, even within India. Geez, there's a very large population in there, and there's different ways that people interact with each other. You have people from the north and south, and it's very, very, what's the word I'm looking for? It's very, very, tribal. Thank you. Tribal. It's very, very tribal. Yeah, so you talk about tribalism. India is still very, very tribal. The very sex within the Indian culture are just going to kind of disagree with each other and things like that. I had a colleague who unfortunately moved out to Colorado a couple of years ago, I think now at this point. But he was there when I first started at my company he sat behind me and we just kind of built a rapport. And, I think at that point he had been in the United States about 7 years, and he's very, I'm going to call him Bollywood, right? Where he had the good looks, and, he's 6'2", and, he cared about his appearance, and he always had that smile, and he was, even though he was married, he had a good rapport with the ladies, right? Compared to someone on the flip side that was very studious and kind of was always, very focused on the task at hand, and didn't have the ability to communicate well with others. You would go to him to get the problem solved, but he really didn't ask him out for drinks or anything like that afterwards. So that exists not only in the cultures outside the United States, but that does exist today in the United States, in IT specifically. I recall when I first started into business, many people got into IT, into technology, because they did not want to talk to people. They just wanted to be left alone. And I'm finding many developers are the same way. There aren't many data center people left, but those in the data center, they enjoy, being in the data centers with the servers and the power supplies and everything humming along. That's what they want to do. And so they tend to not progress in their career as much, but they may like it. So you may be at a point where you're like, well, how do I progress? And this whole notion of soft skills is really what it comes down to. And there are about 10 or so skills that really come into play when you're talking about soft skills. And I alluded it to earlier when we were talking about the Filipino customer support person. It's really communication. You're going to need to be able to communicate effectively, not only with your peers or your colleagues, but your direct line manager, their managers, senior leadership at times, vendors, customers. Now, customers can be external customers to your company, or internal customers to you, because remember, you're providing a service not only for the clients and customers of the company that you work for, but also the people within the company, especially if you're working in IT. You're providing a service to that customer. So communication is going to be really, really key. And I talked about it time and time again. You need to build upon your communication skills. You need to be able to present your ideas clearly and succinctly. That's very, very key, because there are a lot of people, and I'm notorious for this. I just tend to talk, and sometimes it sounds like rambling, like the first few minutes of this show, but there's a point to it, and that's why I try to tie it all up into this notion of soft skills and communications. The biggest and most effective training that I've come across has been Toastmasters. I've said it time and time again. There's Toastmasters International. It's global. If you don't find something within your region, just go to toastmasters.org and look for a club. Many clubs are now virtual, obviously, because of the lockdown, so it may be more feasible for you to get into it. But Toastmasters has this nice program that essentially wraps the effective communication as well as effective leadership into a program called a Pathway. And within the Pathway, there are 10 different projects. Excuse me while I turn off the sound on my phone. There are many projects that allow you to build upon your communication skills, whether it's presenting something, being able to tell a story, becoming an effective leader, becoming a mentor. Those things are all wrapped into this nice little package of a Pathway, and they kind of guide you through your communication skills. A lot of communication, to be honest with you, is also listening. And you'll find that the Toastmasters program will also teach you how to listen effectively. Because if you're not listening, then you're not able to communicate effectively. So communication is probably the number one soft skill that you should improve upon to get ahead, to get that promotion, to jump on that project, to maybe join that open source initiative that you want to be a part of. It's all about communication. Remember, communication is not only about speaking, but it's also about listening. And the other thing that the other soft skill that is going to be beneficial for you, and this one, I'm known not to be this, and very struggle at times to kind of be this, but you need to be organized. If you're not organized, you're not going to be efficient or productive. Now, organization, it covers a bunch of different topics, but this is organization as a whole, right? Whether it's your organization and how you manage a project, or how you manage your daily tasks and time management and things like that. But without having a clear, organized plan of attack, whether it's how you attack your day, how you attack your meetings, how you just manage your work overall, it's gonna present itself essentially in your work, right? You may come across a person that has been tasked to present something, maybe a new solution or a new product or something, right? And as you're talking to them, they're kind of fidgeting, they're looking through their things, and it's because they're not organized. They haven't organized their thoughts properly. They haven't organized their presentation properly to communicate. Again, communicate their thoughts clearly and effectively. So if you're not organized, you're going to find yourself struggling to complete your tasks, to meet the deadlines that you've imposed upon yourself for your various projects, or even your managers impose themselves upon your projects. If you're in sales engineering, to be able to present effectively the solution that the client has asked for, because maybe you didn't listen to them properly or anything like that. You didn't write notes. So organization is really all around that. And a lot of times people call this multitasking. I don't like that term multitasking because it's not effective. Multitasking has not been effective. There are a lot of studies out there. It's not effective. You should focus on one thing. If you can, maybe 20 minutes to an hour, and get that done and move on to the next thing. If you're multitasking within an hour across multiple things, you're not dedicating or focusing your time efficiently to those tasks. So I don't like that multitasking thing, even though you'll find many topics around organization talk about multitasking, but you can only multitask if you're organized. Even though I disagree with that statement, I don't think you should multitask. I think you should focus on something for 20 minutes to an hour, and then put it away and go on to the next thing. I just find that if you're multitasking, you're just running yourself thin with limited resources that most organizations have today. It's not worth it to multitask, because something will fail. All right. So organization is another soft skill that's going to be key for you to improve upon, to kind of either get a promotion or get a new job within IT, and actually even outside of IT. That's a useful skill to have, is organization. The other soft skill that I want to talk about is having an analytical mind. So here's where I get into the differences between call centers, offshore support, and the more senior folks within the industry. You need to have an analytical mind to be able to find logical solutions to frequent problems. You need to be able to diagnose any issues and fix them. So I started off this conversation about offshore support, and offshore support has a script that they go through. They're not tasked with trying to figure out what the problem is. That they're tasked to really get the person off the phone with the best possible solution based on what they have. And if they can't do that within a certain amount of time, they will escalate the call. Some people won't even escalate anymore. I know I had a big blowout with my cable provider earlier in the year when I knew they updated the firmware on my modem for my connection to the cable company, and they flat out said that they didn't. And I sent them links and everything about how they actually do, because I own the modem. I do not lease it from them. I own the modem, but they have the ability to push firmware to my machine, to my modem. And I noticed that the firmware had changed. The box had rebooted a few times, and I was actually without internet for about 4 hours. And because I was only stuck, and this happened on the weekend, so I was stuck with the level 1 on the weekend, and it was frustrating. They would not escalate the call because they didn't have it in their script or something, where they just did not allow the call to get escalated. So, now it all depends on the company that you're at. If you're in a support organization, maybe you're starting out, maybe you do have that analytical mind over your colleagues. But it's got to be to a point where you're not an asshole about it. Because I've seen some great analytical thinkers that are able to come up with solutions to problems. And many of them have been assholes. They're very arrogant in how they think, and just kind of say, no, this is the way to do it. No, that's it. Right? They don't listen to the customer because the customer says, well, that may work, but X, Y, and Z. And then the arrogant person may be like, well, had you told me that from the beginning, right? So don't be arrogant about it. Have an analytical sense about yourself. You need to be able to create and look at data sets, right? That's a big term nowadays, even though we've been doing it forever, taking a look at data sets and being able to manipulate those data sets in whatever tool that you want to use. As part of the AWS Deep Racer event that I was part of recently, I started using Jupyter Notebooks, and I'm like, wow, I didn't realize how efficient the Jupyter Notebooks were to organizing data and kind of building out a tool set to analyze that data. So it was actually pretty cool. My first time using Jupyter Notebooks. I know it's been around for a while, but it's good, right? Just another tool to kind of analyze and manipulate data based on what you want to do. So having that analytical sense is always going to be a big benefit for you when you're trying to navigate the IT landscape, trying to either get a new job, trying to get a promotion, trying to build a team, right? That's going to be key for your success in IT. The fourth skill, the fourth soft skill, this is a big one. This is one that I kind of lack at times, and it's creativity. It's not going to be something that you'll find many people have in this space, because once you go into corporate America, or corporate world, I should say, instead of America. Obviously, I'm American centric because, hey, but once you start working in a corporation, you're going to find that your creativity may get sucked out of you, because early on in your career, you may work for organizations that don't allow you to be creative. You may be fortunate enough to be in an organization that does, but right now, if you're starting out, it's going to be less likely to find yourself in a position where you can actually be creative. I find that there are many creative software engineers, software developers, because obviously they have to be, because they're creating something from nothing. Well, I shouldn't say nothing, but something from a base set of requirements. And I have found over the past couple years that many of these good and decent software engineers are also musicians, whether, it'll be a guitar, or piano, or whatnot. But something that allows their creativity to flourish outside of work. I find that many, many good software engineers or developers have been musicians, or good chess players, right? Because you have to be creative in chess. Artists, there are a few artists that I've seen as well, whether it be in modeling, sculpting, or painting. So creativity is something that's going to be useful to have when you're working in this space. Creativity also will help you launch new ideas within your organization or within your team, or even within your own entrepreneurial mindset. You've probably been doing something for a better part of a year or two, and you're like, you know what, I want to branch off on my own. What can I do? So that creativity is going to come into play in helping you decide what product you want to launch or build or something like that. Also, creativity comes into play when you're troubleshooting something. Many times I find that my creativity comes out when we're on a 12-hour marathon call for an issue that nobody can figure out, and then finally something, the light bulb goes off in your head and you're like, oh, let's try this. Boom, boom, boom. It's very unorthodox, but ultimately it gets the problem resolved and you can move on with your life. So creativity is something that is key to kind of have as part of a skill as an IT person. You really can't build that creativity at work for the most part. You need to build it outside of work. You need to have those extracurricular activities. I found as part of that Deep Racer League, my creativity started to flourish a little bit, because you have to be creative when you're looking at reward functions and the like. But I'll get into that at the end of the show. This one a lot of people don't like, but being able to manage your projects, project management. You're going to be faced at times to manage a project that there's no formal project manager to manage. I know most of my career, I've been tasked to manage projects on my own because the project wasn't big enough, or there just wasn't enough funding to have a project manager. Right. And most of the time you'll be juggling projects. I know when I started in my new position, I think the first 2 years I had, back-to-back 10 plus projects working on. Fortunately now I think I'm down to 5, and that's not because, there's not work. It's just reorganization and within the department, allowed folks to actually do what they were supposed to be doing as opposed to letting me do it. and it allowed me to really focus on what I was actually hired to do. And being on the infrastructure side, it's been a curse and a blessing, right? Because when I had those massive projects in the first couple of years, it helped me shine. It helped me show senior leadership what I can do, what value I bring to the organization. And I was able to get promoted, within less than 2 years. So it was a good thing for me. But now that I have fewer projects to manage, I think I'm turning out a more valuable product to the organization as a whole. Not to say that the projects that I had before weren't as valuable. It just, I felt like they didn't meet their full potential because it was just me and my team. So it's project management, something that you'll need to start improving upon, developing your skill sets in there. If you want, you could take the PMP exam. That's just, again, another 3-letter acronym to add to your title. I know a lot of folks are really keen on getting certifications. So if PMP is one of them, go for it. It's a very useful skill. I know a lot of the project managers that I've worked with recently, all came from a technology background, and it's helped them find non-technical positions. Because obviously, look, if you're doing, hands-on technical skills, it's going to wear on you. So moving into project management, organizing the project, finding project resources and things like that, and managing budgets helps you in the non-technical route, let's say. But it's good to have. It's a good skill set to have. If you're an old fart like me in my early 40s, maybe project management's the way it goes. But some project managers have to be on calls during release weekends, and so while you may not be doing the hands-on technical work, you're still up in the middle of the night taking notes and the like. So it all depends on the type of project manager you are. But project management is a good skill to have. That's not a technical skill; it's a soft skill. There are resources out there and to kind of learn on project management, learn about it, I should say. And then obviously you can do the certification, the PMP certification. I thought about it once, but I said, screw it. It's not for me. Here's another one. This is going to be tough for some of you. Perseverance. Perseverance is a son of a bitch. Most people are like, I persevered. I don't give up too easily on many of the tasks. But do you really? Do you really? Have you ever been on a 36-hour call trying to solve a problem because it was you and maybe one other person that can really figure out what's going on with the vendor, and you kind of stuck with it because you could fall asleep, but you may miss out on something. Or if you try to fall asleep, you jump back on a call because, hey, I thought of something else, right? So that's kind of the thing where you don't give up easily. You take ownership, and I've said this before, right? You take ownership of what's going on, and don't kind of hand it off to somebody because that's kind of what you do. You have to take the good with the bad, right? And perseverance will help you with that because you're going to run into problems, you're going to run into challenges that you're just not going to be able to solve. And it's going to gnaw at you. Now, the good person, the one that perseveres, says, "Oh, let me take a look. Let me see what else I can find. Let me see if I can do something else to help out in this situation." And because you've persevered to kind of see the problem to the end, it's going to leave a good note on those in charge. Because remember, one thing you have to notice is that people are always paying attention to you. Even if you don't think they are, people are looking at you. We're looking at you. They're always going to be looking at you. So it's something that to kind of to show that you don't give up easily. You're there, committed to the organization, committed to trying to solve that problem. That's good, a good skill to have, that perseverance. But look, let's not take it to the nth level, right? There's going to be a time where you have to realize that there's no other solution to be had. Cut your losses and move on. And that's another skill that you need to really hone in on as part of perseverance. Realize when you just have to throw in the towel and say, hey, this is all we can do. All right. Don't kill yourself over something because you have 80 other thousand things to do. So perseverance is something that you want to make sure you have. You don't give up on anything, obviously easily, but do that. Problem solving. I've said this before. You got to have a good problem solving mind. Whether you do crossword puzzles, even, just puzzles in general, if you're good at that, like I am, it'll help you. Because, what do we do in IT? We solve problems for the business so they can make money using technology, right? If you're in a space where the product is a person, like in the legal space, right? Your problem solving skills are going to be, how do we introduce technology to help the lawyers by not spending much money, right? Because lawyers are very particular in not spending money. because ultimately, it's not a corporation. It's coming out of their pockets. So if they're billing out $1,000 an hour, and I just say that because I know in the law firm that I used to work at, that's what the senior partners would bill out at, $1,000 an hour to corporations, because he has so many years experience and he has this many connections. And I say he because most of the top partners were males. But, your problem solving skills are going to be challenged in organizations where the product is a person, because technology has not been seen as a value add. Now with artificial intelligence and the like, that may be changing, because I have seen some new technologies out there that are analyzing case reports and the like. So it's going to be interesting in the legal space to see what happens in the next couple of years, because AI is really making a push into that space and helping reduce the overall cost, right? If you look at the structure of a law firm, right, you have your partner, then you have your it's kind of like a pyramid, right? You have your person at top and then everybody else underneath that supports that person, right? So the paralegal is the one that's kind of the person that gets all the work that nobody else wants. So they have to have a good problem solving skills to kind of figure things out and the like. But anyway, AI is going to come into play and reduce the number of people that a lawyer has to rely upon. So it's a good problem to have, but you should start looking at improving your problem solving skills. If you don't find yourself in situations where you don't have to solve problems, go find one. Go join an open source project and try to figure some stuff out. So yeah, improve your problem solving skills, play some puzzles, do some crosswords, something to keep your mind sharp to figure out how to be able to figure out how to resolve issues quickly. And then the other thing is you have to be resourceful. I think most of us are very resourceful if we've been in this industry for a while. Doing more with less is something I'm very, very familiar with. It's not like I've been in organizations where they just throw money at you. I have not. I've always been in organizations where money is, while the organization overall makes a lot of money, IT doesn't get that. So you have to be very, very resourceful in how you approach different things, right? You're going to have to figure out how to do things. Like I said, do more with less. And if you show, here's the deal with resourcefulness, right? If you show that you can be resourceful and you're adding value to the organization without spending more money, apart from your salary, then people are going to start looking and taking notice, right? So resourcefulness is something that you're going to want to look into some more and figuring out how to do more with less. And that's really all I can say about that, just how to do more with less. Figure that out. And if you're not in IT, well, I should say if you're in IT and you're not curious, which is the 9th soft skill you should have, then why are you in IT? Excuse me. I got into technology because I was curious. I've always been curious. My first career wasn't technology, it was medicine, because I was curious about the human body and was curious how the human body works and how to make it work again if it was broken. The path I was actually going down was a trauma room surgeon, because every single day there would be something different. That was the path I wanted to go down, and never happened, but it still complemented my curious nature. And that's one of the reasons why I find those that are very successful in IT are very, very curious. There's this concept of the computer hacker, right? Or the phone hacker, the freakers. these folks are very curious about how technologies work and how they can exploit that technology for their benefit. Now, the phone freaks in the early days, they were curious about how things work. They were able to exploit things for their own benefit, and they shared that information with their friends. And, I don't see anything wrong with that, to be honest with you, because there's always going to be somebody out there taking a look at what you've designed, what you've built, and seeing if they can break it, seeing if they can exploit it, seeing if they can find any vulnerabilities. And we have a whole new industry around that, and it's called InfoSec, or cybersecurity, or information risk management. A whole industry has been built around that, and it's an industry that's growing and has a severe skills gap, and not in the entry level. No, it's more the senior level folks. And how do you get to senior level? You got to be entry level. But anyway, those folks have to be curious. They have to kind of start poking holes in certain things within an organization. And it's really just kind of why we get into technology. I'm going to say it again. If you're in IT and you're not curious, then why are you in IT? To be fair. Yes, okay. You may be getting paid very well, because there's nothing out there that gets paid as much as you do. But at some point, you're going to be faced with in a situation where you're gonna have to be curious enough to figure it out. So curiosity is another skill you need to have. And the last one, again, I'm not going to belabor this too much, is the interest in helping others. I myself have started a level 1 help desk, then found my way into an Lotus Domino admin position, or Lotus Notes at the time it was called. But overall, my number one skill that I do very well is my interest in helping people. Now, that has hurt me at times, because now people know they just come to me and I will get them their issues resolved or help them out. So now my resourcefulness has gone down because I'm stuck helping people. I've pushed back a couple of times and things like that, but most people, at least in senior leadership positions, they know they can just come to me and I will either fix their problem or get someone to fix their problem. And that's kind of how I've developed my career over the years, is just really helping people out. The best time of my career was when I was at a publishing company. I was able to go to the sales conferences and work with the salespeople. Now, this group of people was very, very good to work with, because they would tell you all their problems that they had and say, I can't do this, I can't do that, this is not working right. And, I would take that information back to our team and say, hey, look, we need to figure out a way how to do this. We need to figure out, folks aren't always in a connected state. I had one woman who worked in, I think, the Massachusetts area for her sales region, would be in basements at universities before Wi-Fi was everywhere. She said, I would go into the basement of a professor's office with my PCMCIA card connected to the internet, and I get down there and I lose the connection and I can't pull up my marketing slides. And that was a big problem. That was a big problem in areas where Wi-Fi just wasn't prevalent. So being able to work with those people, it motivated me to help them, to figure out how we can actually help them. And that's kind of, not becoming a doctor, not being able to help people. I needed to find another way to kind of help people. And IT was that way, right? It allowed me to be curious, allowed me to work with technology, which was something that I had always been interested in, even before this whole doctor thing. But I knew that if I had gone into medicine, I would be able to play with technology, because technology was growing in that space as well. And I always had a keen interest of helping people. And this is going to be the most important skill out of everything to have. If you don't want to help people, then why don't you be a data center technician or something like that? Even software developers, right? They have to have an interest to help people. Most people that develop software are developing software to help other people. So it's one of those things where you have to have that skill set of wanting to help people. This is a service industry. You need to help people. So I digress. So yeah, those are 10 things. I talked about. Again, you can find these out online and stuff like that. I just pulled a couple of them from here and there. But the soft skills, again, just kind of rehashing communication again. Effective communication is going to be key for you. Organization, having an analytical mind, creativity, project management. I threw it in there because it did make sense, but you take it or leave it. Perseverance, definitely. We talked about that. Your problem-solving abilities, your being resourceful, your curiosity, and then also your interest in helping others. Again, if you're in IT and you don't want to help people, why? Why? So those are things that I wanted to talk about today. Hopefully this is beneficial to you and you find some value from it. While I'm going to say this again, I did not anticipate recording a show this season, I should say. Yeah, maybe I should use my words. A show this season. I'm trying to provide the most valuable resources for you because I know there are going to be a lot of you that may take something out of this. Again, even if it's one person, then it's been beneficial for me to have this out there. I don't do this for fame. I just do this to leave a mark and ensure that somebody out there makes use of it. Now, I've said this before. You can do the same exact thing I am by taking the time out, putting your thoughts down, and recording an episode and putting it out there. You can actually develop a show that's entirely contrarian to what I've said because you have different experiences, and that's the beauty of this technology and this platform. Everybody's got an opinion, everybody's got ideas, and there's going to be a small segment of people that will follow you and agree with you. This is the 6th season I've done this. And the numbers have slowly increased, and that's because I don't have consistency around it. And if you follow those trends and say, well, this is how to have a successful podcast career and this and that, I don't want a podcast career. I just wanted a show where I can just do things, say things that may help people. Now, early on, I wanted to kind of, I was more organized. Well, I wouldn't say more organized. I was organized to some extent. And I think last year was the most number of episodes that I put out. But some of those I felt were just kind of put out there just to put out there, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the fact that I felt like I had to put something out there. I don't want that feeling. I want to be able to put something out there, not have people depend upon me to do something every week, because again, it's not something that can be discussed every week. There are things and ideas that I probably do want to talk about, but I'm not going to put up every week because it's only going to be maybe 10 minutes. I want to have enough value for you as a listener to say, oh, you know what? He makes good sense. So I did take a look at some of the earlier shows, and I am going to be revisiting some of those topics from season 1 now that I have some better equipment and I have some better editing tools. Again, those first couple of years, look, every year I try to improve upon my tool sets. So, we'll see what happens. So look, past couple of weeks I've been working on this AWS Deep Racer League through work. Really, really awesome. If you haven't checked it out, please go to AWS and go to their Deep Racer Leagues. If you don't have an AWS account, what are you waiting for? I mean, it's free. Yeah, you have to put a credit card in there, but you can manage those costs well. There's a lot of resources out there to kind of do this. So anyway, if you go to AWS and you go to the Deep Racer League, you can actually run 10 hours worth of training for free. And then after that, it's like $350 an hour, which isn't too bad. We were looking at it, a friend of mine, I should say a colleague of mine and I, who were doing it for work, we were looking at it, and it's like 8-hour training is $24. Now, for our organization, that's not too bad, right? So, we were training like 4 different models. And I'm gonna backtrack and talk about what the hell a model is for those of you that don't know. But we were training like 4 different models. We're like, whatever. It's the company's doing well. Let me put it this way. So it wasn't going to break anybody's bank, right? To kind of put $96 worth of training into our model. So real quick, we were doing this for the past 2 weeks, I should say. Today was the grand finale. Unfortunately, we came in 13th. We didn't make the top 10 to make it to the grand finale. But you know what? For 2 guys that had no idea on how to do this, I thought we did very, very well. Excuse me, we weren't 13th. We were 33rd out of 109 teams, I should say. Although what was odd is that it said, the organizer said today that there were 750 people that participated, 200 teams. So I don't know how we were 33rd out of 109. So I have to look at those scores again. But anyway, top third, I'll take that, right? Top third, I'll take it for first time. So what the Deep Racer is, right? It's autonomous driving, machine learning. You have a car that you program to learn how to navigate around the track. And that's what those models are I'm talking about. And those models are essentially based on functions that you build. Now, there are plenty of functions out there that you can find on the internet, and AWS gives you some base functions to work with, and you just essentially have to reward your car for staying close to the center or not veering off the track, and you just reward the car. And based on the reward function, your car will do positive or negative. Now, it was great. It was a colleague of mine. It was supposed to be a team of 3, but we ended up a team of 2 for whatever reason. My colleague, he said, "Look, I'm going to go this route." And I said, "Okay, I'll take this route. We'll kind of meet in the middle." So he started off with the slower car, or started off with the faster car. And we met in the middle. My models never actually made it a complete lap until I decreased my speed. So it's interesting learning how to build those reward functions in Python. I talked about how I learned how to use Jupyter Notebooks, which was awesome because there was an analysis tool out on GitHub on a Deep Racer analysis repo that you can pull down and load up into your Jupyter Lab, and enter in some bits of information, download your logs from your AWS Deep Racer logs for your training that you did, and kind of run through that. Excuse me. So it was fun. It was a good thing to kind of learn. Lots of information. I think this is the second year they've done it. AWS as a whole, I should say. There is no live event this year. I know when I went to the AWS Summit last year in New York City, they did have the AWS, the Deep Racer event there. I know they do it in reInvent, the big one. So it's a good time. I honestly say if you're really interested in doing something different and kind of improving your creativity, go ahead and do that. Sign up again for AWS. There are, again, a lot of resources out there. I'm going to give you a resource. So I talked about Cloud Guru, Cloud Guru, who have purchased Linux Academy, right? So Cloud Guru purchased the Linux Academy, and so now it's kind of two behemoths in one, and they're still trying to figure their way out. But if you want to get certified in AWS, I found this person, and the site is learn.cantrill, CANTRILL.io. Adrian Cantrill is doing very well in terms of providing resources for those that want to pass the AWS Certified Solutions Architect exam, whether it's the associate or the professional. So very good resource to learn AWS. Now, again, A Cloud Guru and Linux Academy, they have hands-on resources and things like that. Honestly, I can't justify the cost. I think it's like $495 now, but I can't justify the cost. Adrian's course was way less than that. And I got it as a bundle. So, it was good. I got it at a good time. But that's a good one. Learn.cantrell.io. Reddit has a number of resources out there for you. I jumped on Telegram, right? I follow this one thing with Telegram, and it's make use of the resources, be resourceful, figure things out, learn how to get your creativity. AWS Deep Racer really helped me with that. And hopefully, you'll find some motivation or reignite your passion in technology and kind of help you move forward and go deeper into your career, whether it be in solutions architecture or whatever your path may be. Good luck, man. Or woman, I should say. I say man to even women, so apologies, don't get offended. But good luck on your journey, and I will talk to you later. I don't know when the later is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be next week or the week after, but I will try. But enjoy, and I will talk to you soon. Take care.